The common belief among airline execs is that we will not see a return to 2019 passenger levels until a very large part of the population has been vaccinated.
Hello my dear friends, it's been a while since my last video. I'm here today to talk about aviation, a little bit about what's going on right now in the world. So you saw the opening video from the news reports. So I'm gonna be using some words here that I don't want to be flagged. So instead of this word here, I'm gonna say this one, and instead of this word here, I'm gonna use this one. So when I speak about these two, you know that I'm talking about these two right here. Okay, so as you just saw in the beginning of the video, in the introduction, the opening, the report is saying that probably nobody will be able to fly without having received a shot.
Has been vaccinated.
So that has a lot of implications for both the airline industry and for us, for people, the customers, the clients, okay? Now, this is just a sign of the times, you know, changes have come to happen in the past few months. And unfortunately, we have been talking about this for many years, and a lot of people laughed at us. But we have been talking about the New World Order that was going to come and was already here, actually. It's just like taking its final adjustments to really rule all over our society. So just imagine that you won't be able to fly without having received a shot. Implications for the airlines: less passengers will be flying, meaning not everybody will want to take the shot. Many people will say no, so that means less people will be flying. On the other side, we have the airlines that having less passengers will mean a lot more financial problems for them. And just imagine this part as well. Every employee, if you want to work in an airline, if you want to fly, you're going to be a pilot, a flight attendant, a co-pilot, you're going to have a certificate of a shot. So this is sign of times, right? So we're going to be looking here at the future of aviation, what's going on right now, and there may be no other future for aviation. A lot of airplanes are already flying empty, and many of the international flights will no longer take place. For example, for this year, 2020, I had planned 3 trips: one to Thailand, one to New Zealand. I visited New Zealand last year. I was going to go again with my family this year, and another trip to Brazil. Now, even if the situation goes back to normal, I have already canceled all those 3 trips. I just don't trust anymore, okay? I don't know what's going to happen. I've seen people stranded overseas. They haven't been able to go back to their countries. I don't want this happening to us. I don't want this happening to our family, separating our family. Let's say if we take a flight from Japan to Brazil, stopping in LA, suddenly they decide that we need to take a shot to board the plane again because we need to have a transit stop there, or even if it's in Dubai or in Europe. What if they decided that if we have already left here with no problems, but in the middle of the way they decide, well, you cannot board this plane again unless you take a shot. So we don't want to take risks anymore. We have talked among ourselves. We are not planning any more international travel. And even though I have families in Brazil, I have told them that I don't know if I will even see them again in person because I no longer plan to travel to South America. So now let's look at a couple of the reports about jobs in the airline industry. Let's first look at some reaction from pilots.
The coronavirus has devastated the airline industry. U.S. air travel has dropped 95% compared to last year, and the number of flights scheduled globally is down by 63%. The insides of airports are empty, but outside is another story. While some airlines have started transporting cargo on passenger planes, more than 2/3 of the world's commercial aircraft are grounded.
It's somewhere between 14 and 15,000 aircraft that are parked, or almost 60% of the fleet.
Never before in history have airlines had to ground so many planes so quickly.
Our customers have come to us and said, look, we're parking literally hundreds of aircraft per day, and logistically, it's very, very complex. This is a particular difficult time.
Parking hundreds of aircraft is also adding to their losses. These planes can't just sit idle. They need routine maintenance and a place to be stored. And when you suddenly have thousands of planes with nowhere to go, it becomes a logistical nightmare.
It requires a lot more maintenance to bring it back into service than, let's say, if it's been started up every 10 days or so. The A380, the big double-decker that Airbus launched, a little bit over a decade ago, every one of those is on the ground. 100% of the A380s are parked today.
So we just heard about all those aircrafts being taxed in some places, some airports. Now just imagine 95% of them being now on the ground, and those aircrafts need maintenance, right? Now, if things go back to normal, those aircrafts all need to be maintained and checked before even flying, because you don't want to trust an aircraft that's being taxed for many weeks, months now, and then suddenly they decided to just take an international trip. You may not want to trust that, because I haven't found any things that says that the mechanics are still working and checking those aircrafts. Yes, they're checking some of them, but there are literally thousands of them, over 30,000 of them now on the ground. So it's kind of dangerous. And you also heard them saying that it would take 2 to 3 years to go back to normal. My opinion is that it will never go back to normal. As I told you in the beginning, you will be required to have taken a shot to travel. And many people won't do that. They don't want to do that. I myself am one of them. I don't want to be under the pressure of only being allowed to travel if I take a shot, knowing that the shot is not good for me. Okay, so imagine some pilots flying people who took shots, and there will be bad reaction to those shots, and there'll be a lot of people sick even inside an airplane. So talking about more emergency landings, a lot of unpleasant situations happen. Okay, so let's go to next segment and look at some of the pilots speaking by themselves.
The thing with aviation, it is that when things go bad, it's the quickest to react. And then when things get better, it's the slowest to catch up. It's a very sensitive industry. So I think for us, people that work in the airlines, we might be fucked for a while. And it sucks, I'm not gonna lie, it sucks pretty bad.
And to cope with the crisis, South Korea's flag carrier, Korean Air, has transformed some of their passenger flights into cargo planes. According to the company on Sunday, since last Friday, the airline has airshipped agricultural products and supplies from Korean companies based in Vietnam through its flights to Ho Chi Minh City.
Here's another example of a pilot who migrated to other fields of business. A British Airways pilot has taken a temporary job as a delivery driver for Tesco during the coronavirus pandemic. Peter Login worked for the airline headquartered in London, near its main hub at Heathrow, for just 4 months before the travel industry was tremendously affected by the ongoing crisis. Last week, British Airways announced it was grounding all flights at Gatwick and dramatically cutting its service at Heathrow as demand for travel collapsed.
Tonight, we bring you an exclusive. We talk one-on-one with an airline pilot about the impact the crisis has had on him and the industry. He says a big change is right around the corner. He asked us, though, not to reveal his name or the airline he works for, and we're honoring that request.
So April, May, all the airlines, commercial-wise, will be pretty much anywhere from 50 to 70% domestic. They will be shut down.
He just finished a flight that operated nearly empty. Only one passenger and two non-working pilots headed to a new assignment sat in seats.
So, Adrian, a strange world we live in these days with the coronavirus kind of. So you're a captain for JetBlue flying the Airbus. And what's it like out there in the airspace today? What are your flights been like lately?
Well, Tom, it's pretty scary, actually. And it's hard to believe that 6 months ago, all of the airlines were hiring pilots. We couldn't get enough guys to fill the seats, to fill the cockpit.
Right.
And now I got an email from my company this morning offering early retirement because I've got less than a year to go till mandatory retirement at 65. So it's just beyond comprehension or beyond belief of how quickly things have changed. The rest of the airlines are doing, but I suspect major reductions in flying. And American is offering an early out as JetBlue is. So it's a completely different environment than it was just even a week ago. And it continues to get more grim every day.
There are airlines that have already gone into bankruptcy and on the verge of it just because of this. The scientists are telling us is to stay away from each other and crowds. They're offering, for example, for international pilots to take a month off with reduced.
The Southern Indiana mother of three is a pilot flying for a major commercial passenger airline, and she only gets paid from the time the door closes until the time it opens at the destination.
We get paid per flight hour.
Cole Clazier last flew over the weekend.
If you had a 100-passenger aircraft, so just think of a fifth of that. That'd probably be like 20 people.
And while the company emails are not alarming so far,
there's no talks of furloughs, so they definitely try to dispel any type of rumor about that.
This pilot feels like her job is very much up in the air, even if the government arrives with help.
At this point, everybody in the industry is expecting the worst, preparing, and just hoping for the best.
We're keeping this airline employee anonymous since the COVID-19 outbreak has grounded some flights, closing borders. Business is slow, and it's leaving many worried about their health and safety, and now job losses.
And our secondary concern would be being laid off. Again, we love our job. We know every single day when we come on board our aircraft that anything could happen, and we are prepared for everything except this.
Hey, isn't that Calvin? I haven't seen him for a while. Wonder where he's heading. I heard he got a job. Is that right? Well, it's about time he got himself together. Now that you mention it, there is something different about him. Just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover. Looks like responsibility's been good for him. Well, I'm just glad somebody believed in him enough to give him a chance. Wonder where he's working. Welcome to McDonald's. May I help you?
All right, guys, really sad stories we heard there. You heard that some airlines, like the Korean Airlines, they adapted some of the airplanes to transport cargo. But remember, dozens of thousands of airplanes on the ground, not all of them, in fact, perhaps only 5% of them can really be adapted into transport cargo, because there aren't that much cargo to be transported, because they already have the cargo planes. They have ship that also transport cargoes. We have trucks and everything, so not all airplanes can be adapted into transporting cargoes. They're doing what they can while they can, because with the current situation, for example, I'm not buying anything. I am expecting a mug from my friend Jimmy from the US, and it's been almost 2 months. It used to be, used to get here in 1 week. Okay, so you're not importing anymore because we don't know when those items can arrive. we don't know the regulation. It can change from a day to another. So if you buy a large amount of something, you might not get here. You lose your money, you lose investment. So even the amount of cargo will go down in the next few weeks or years. Another thing that you can note, like pilots have a high maintenance lifestyle. You know, they have expensive cars. Like one of them that I was watching, he's got like 2 Mustangs and beautiful house and everything, and he was worried how to pay his bills. You know, like you subscribe to Netflix, you have internet, you have other bills, and then all of a sudden, no income. I was watching a family in Australia yesterday. They only had $10. $10 in their pocket. That's all the money they had left. And beautiful, huge house and everything in it. Now they don't have how to maintain that stuff. And a lot of pilots have the same lifestyle, you know. They live in expensive neighborhoods and they got everything. Now they don't have money. So that's why I run the commercial McDonald's commercial at the end, just to make fun. Because as you saw, the pilots taking a job as a truck driver, and it's going to get to the point that if you have to feed your family, you're going to have to do anything, okay? I myself had a good friend back in the US. He had his own business, but when things got bad, he took a job as a painter. He was painting houses, you know, doing stuff like that. So it's time now for you do what you have to do to help your family. And also another thing that I took a note, I noted down here, all other jobs related to aviation, like flight attendant. You know, a lot of them are going to be laid off right now, as we're going to see in this next segment.
Air Canada announcing late last night it is laying off more than 5,000 flight attendants.
Air Canada said in a letter to employees that the airline had no choice but to cut staff. It calls the move difficult but necessary.
With planes grounded or flying well under capacity, there have been mass layoffs for airline staff as well as third-party contractors.
And over 5,000, Air Canada is laying off over 5,000 flight attendants. That's only Air Canada. Imagine how the other airlines combine. So we're talking about millions and millions of people unemployed in the aviation alone. Okay, not talking about other areas. I'm talking about flight attendant, baggage handlers, the people who supply food for the airlines. I was watching this company that supplies food for Korean Airlines, and they are all unemployed right now. You know, one guy has been working for them for like 25 years. Now he is like, has nothing to do. So let's go on. I sometimes watch a guy talking about aviation, and he was talking about giving his perspective on that, on the situation right now. So what I did, I went over the comments, and I will be talking about some of the comments. Okay guys, I'm gonna be reading some comments here I got from this channel, YouTube channel. This guy, his YouTube channel is called the Mentor Pilot, Airline Bloodbath, What Will Happen Next. So I watched the whole 21 minutes. He's kind of talks a little bit about the crisis. He throws some optimism, and I'm going to explain why. I'm not saying that it's his case, but I've been seeing some guys being optimistic about the situation. But the thing is, you know, some of these people, and I can tell you by my own experience, they are connected to some, let's say in his case, he's a pilot. If he's connected to a flying school, and then they gotta bring in more students. So they gotta throw an optimistic view of the future because they wanna sell their product. They teach students how to fly, and some of them, I was listening to this pilot. He has $150,000 in debt because he just finished flying school, and now he is afraid he's not going to get a job. So some of these pilots, they are connected to some sort of flying school, so they are throwing an optimistic view of the future because they don't want their students to see that they have no future, okay? And I will explain why that's what I think. But let's go ahead and read some of the comments. Yeah, he did touch upon many aspects in that video, and he did do another one about pilots needing to regularly maintain their training. But the main question behind it all, at least for me, as the end consumer, is whether he believes flying will be more dangerous in the initial months once everything starts rolling again. And this is interesting because what he is saying is a lot of those aircrafts are not being maintained. Okay, they're parked, they're taxed in some places, and then they're gonna start flying them back again. If they do, it may not be as safe, so you may see some accidents happening. It can be dangerous flying. The title of your video made me very upset because I'm wanting to be a pilot in my future career, and the industry will be long gone by the time I get my licenses as a pilot. In simpler terms, the aviation industry will fade away like it was a mirage, and we'll never be able to get it. Another interesting comment, because if someone is getting his pilot license now and hopes to get a job in a major airline, you can bet that it will take for this guy who gets his license today, it will take him at least 15 years for him to be flying a 737. Okay, on the other hand, if we had no crisis, it could take him 4 to 5 years. But now, if everything goes back to normal, it could take him at least 15 years to get him flying a 737. Next one, the airlines are doomed. Nobody's going to be able to afford to fly. Nobody's going to want to be crammed on planes for fears of viruses. Globalization is ending because it has been proven dangerous to the welfare of people. This industry is over. Globalization failed because the world is not a globe. I live in Toulouse and I repair parts for all of the main airplane constructions. Most of what you have said, I have already seen the effects of. A380 parts are not being repaired and are being set aside, and the main things that I am having to repair at the moment are for 747 cargo planes. In fact, the majority of the parts I am receiving are from Asian countries, as they seem to still be operating. Some cold water here. In 73, I just finished training with American Airlines. Oil crisis hit and was on the street, so he was fired. It took it till 76 to get a recall, and by then I had went the national. Next was the regulation. Pan Am sucked us up. I only took one paycheck from them and moved on to FedEx. 25 years there, now retired, and very glad to be done with aviation. Bottom line, I don't think things will come back fast, if at all. Move along with life, and if you have a family, it might be wise to plan on a career change. Another one here, to any pilot out there or any pilot contender, get a different education while you still can. This may sound very dramatic and pessimistic, but what he said is very important. He just did not finish the thought. The airlines are not the only thing that is being bought by central banks or countries, as he says. Everything is starting to be bought by the central banks because they will never let go of their organized crime scheme before it is absolutely pointless. We are at the beginning of a huge depression, and flying anywhere is unfortunately going to be the least of our problems. Man, before going to bed, I always get so pessimistic. It must be the confinement at home. But either way, better safe than sorry. Take care and really look for any occupation that's really necessary during a Great Depression. Just my 2 cents. Last one. He is speaking as a privileged person to the privileged class. That's not realistic. The world has changed. 10% may be privileged. Can fly wherever, whenever they want. 90% not so. Borders will become blocked. Anyone ever thought it was starting to go through TSA? I think the next step is the medical certificate one needs to fly to any country. The internet has proven one can work from home, no need to go off somewhere to a meeting. So very interesting this. The other thing this guy pointed out and brought it to my mind, imagine now if you need to get a visa to go to another country, now you need to prove that you have been vaccinated. What if you don't want to be vaccinated? So airlines will lose lots of business because of that. Look at this here. Coronavirus, what global travel may look like ahead of a vaccine. So pretty much it will be mandatory for you to take a vaccine if you want to fly. So if you don't want to fly, that means airlines will lose more business. And they are pretty much stuck there. They cannot allow passengers to fly without being vaccinated. And if you don't want to fly because you're not vaccinated, that means they will lose business. So this is my 2 cents, for those who are planning a career in aviation. It's going to be very difficult. So no fears for pilots now who are being fired to go ahead and tell the world that the earth is flat, there's no curvature. There never was. All right, guys, a few more things that I want to add. So what I was saying during this guy's talking about the comments during this guy's video is that, like, I have a business, okay? I have a small English school here in Japan. So I could easily take advantage of the situation right now and tell my students that, this is the moment for you to invest in yourself. You need to learn English now, and because, if you don't know another language, you may not have a future. But, the thing is, there will be no future. So some flight schools, they may, I'm not saying that this is the case, as I said in prior, but they may be hiring pilots to advertise for them, saying, giving the glimpse that the situation will be all right, everything's going to go back to normal, so the students can enroll in their schools, because they depend on the students. After they graduate, they don't care. Okay, so I have a student here, a Japanese girl. She's 21 years old. She's in her last year of interior design. She is $60,000 in debt from student loan. And we were talking right here a week ago, and she said, "Teacher, I don't know what to do because I have all this money, but I don't know if I'm going to get a job." And she told me the school doesn't care. All right, and they are trying to advertise more to get more students. There will be no jobs for them. Same thing, okay? One of the things that they were saying is, like, if you get your pilot license now, before the crisis, maybe in 5 years you would be flying a 737. Now it's possible that it will take 15 years to be flying a 737 plane if things go back to normal. But as I said, and that's what I believe, I don't think things are going to go back to normal, okay? A lot of problems are coming. And the other thing that I want to say, like the pilot was saying about confinement, luckily here in Japan, we haven't been under a lockdown. Yes, Tokyo, it was bad in Tokyo, like as far as stores being closed, but that was the only place because the governor of Tokyo, she might be, I don't know, in the club because she was really pushing, okay? But everywhere else, it's been okay. The malls are open, most of the stores are open. No schools though, but most of the places are open. And except some franchise like American companies like Starbucks, they closed down completely. But we have the Japanese stores, the cafes that we can go. All right, so let's move on to the next segment that I want to talk to you about it.
At this afternoon's government news briefing, one of the Prime Minister's most senior colleagues told me local lockdowns might have to be reimposed.
Our phased approach is one which allows us to monitor the impact that those changes are having on public health, and if necessary, in a specific and localised way. That means that we can pause or even reintroduce those restrictions that might be required in order to deal with localised outbreaks.
All right, guys, you just heard him say reintroduce. So even though they're talking about easing up the lockdown, making things to go back to normal, at any time everything can be reinstated. At any time. Things can go bad at any time. So we don't have now, we can't trust these politicians because they no longer work for the people. They never did, but now they openly work for the New World Order. Now we're going to be talking about this New World Order in a couple minutes, okay? But remember, your local police, your politicians, they all work for the New World Order now. They don't care about you. Another thing that I want to talk to you about it, a lot of more pilots, more people will be laid off in October. as we're going to see right now.
Now the airlines are expected to lay off tens of thousands of people starting October 1st.
This is a matter of sheer gut survival.
So this one, I just got it last night. Today is May 12th, 2020. So this piece of news, it was on last night that the airlines are planning to lay off hundreds or thousands more pilots and flight attendants in October. They are only keeping them right now on the payroll because they received over $50 billion bailout. And the government just can't be giving them money. And so in October, when they run out of money, they're going to be laying off the rest of the pilots, keeping maybe 5% only of them on the payroll. So this is the situation we are right now. Okay. Now, as I told you before, I deal with students here, and I could easily be taking advantage of this situation. But I'm being open to them. I'm telling them there is no future. There is no future in studying English, like as far as working overseas, moving, or working for big international companies. I came across from this report from Australia. Let's take a look.
There's more bad news for the economy tonight, with COVID-19 causing the biggest population drop in Australia's history. As thousands of temporary residents leave the country on government orders, the knock-on effect will be devastating.
Australia is a country built on immigration, but the pandemic is set to cause the biggest decline in our population in history.
Now the Prime Minister is saying, not where the bloody hell are you, but to go home.
Many suburbs in some of our biggest cities are especially reliant on the skills of migrants.
Just here alone in our city, about 140,000 of our residents are migrants.
But many international students and workers on temporary visas are now being told to leave the country. 310,000 people have already left since January.
It's almost 2 years' worth of population growth to lose in 3 months, and that's a huge drop.
It's expected another 300,000 could also go home by the end of the year. There are also fears it will hurt the property, retail and hospitality sectors, as well as education and tourism, making a recession inevitable.
The size and scale of that recession is really the question now.
Some experts believe the government is making a mistake blocking temporary workers from the JobKeeper allowance. They believe the move could further hamper our economic recovery.
We paid back the big debt after World War II by having a very, very large baby boom and a very large post-war migration program. I don't think we'll be doing that this time.
The big question, how to repay the new debt.
All right, guys, so one thing that I don't want to do is to make money out of this situation on people that I don't think there will be any future for them. My field is international students, as we teach them, and they get to take some tests to study abroad. It's a lot of money for them. Parents have to borrow money sometimes, or sometimes they have saved, but it's a lot of money for them to invest and for no future at all. I don't want to be sending students abroad so they can be stuck there, being forced to take a shot or something so they can return home. So I have been sincere with my students. I have talked to them. I have lost already some because I have been open to them, but some others, I still have a lot of students that don't want to quit. They want to keep on studying. Perhaps they believe things will be better in the future. But it's up to them. I cannot force them to stop studying, but I've been sincere with them. I don't want to be keeping the money because sometimes when I teach classes, I myself am very pessimistic. I'm thinking like, what's that for? Because there's no purpose anymore. Okay, let's move on to the second part. The first part we talk about aviation doom. Now let's talk about the science deception. Science deception, because pretty much what we've been talking applies to science. All that science that you guys have been learning and defending, especially those bulwark believers, for what? The narrative is control. all the narrative is being controlled by a group of people. And they have flooded the institutions with this false science, and people believe that so deeply, and they defend that. And now I wonder them, what answers are they getting from these institutions? And they are just telling them the same story. Oh, things are going to go back to normal. I was watching the director of a university yesterday and said, oh, no, we're expecting normal registration for fall. Everything's going to go back to normal. No, you're going to have all those, social distance, all that stuff going on. Things will never go back to normal. So, I mean, what's the point of everything? I myself, my daughter, my youngest, she's 14, and she's been at home because the schools are canceled until the end of May. I actually don't want her to go back to school at all, because what's the point? There's no point. But it's okay. She's going to go meet her friends and talk outside the school, get together. I mean, it's stupid, what's going on. But anyway, it's the biggest deception. Because science, this false so-called science, is the biggest deception. It led to nothing. Okay, everything taught in school led to nothing. Now you see the new reality taking place now, and everything taught you it's going to be thrown out. Now, school has no importance right now. I do have a friend, she's a college professor in the U.S., one of the 10 best colleges. She teaches there. And she was very upset. She sent me an email. She was upset because her line of work is considered to be non-essential.
Schools in Washington state are in the middle of a 6-week closure, but school officials have started preparing to stay closed even longer.
We know a lot of you have questions about how students are going to make their requirements. We'll come with Tammy Mutas is live in the newsroom. She just got an answer to that question so many parents want to know, Tammy.
Yeah, Mary, for a lot of parents and school officials, the reality is setting in that kids might not be going back to school anytime soon. Well, the state superintendent just told us they've already started planning for that.
And of course, we have to prepare ourselves for a scenario where it's closed for the rest of the year. That's not the determination we understand at this point by the governor. He'll make that call, but we're preparing for that by asking districts to ramp up their ability to engage families and to create learning opportunities.
Of course it's not essential, because a lot of that stuff is false anyway. A lot of those science and history is all fake. So it's considered non-essential, because at any time all that stuff is going to be erased and they're going to teach something different, at any time. And there's nothing that she can do about it. The orders come from the top. And a lot of changes are going to be made right now. Just like they had the kids at school, everybody at school, while they were installing those towers at schools right now. So they control the narrative, and people who defend the science are blind. Okay, everything that, the heliocentric model, history, even, all that stuff, the science, biology, it's all garbage. It's all garbage, guys. I'm sorry to say that, but it's all garbage. So let's talk about the New World Order. A lot of people have been talking about, advising, and warning us about it, for over 30 years.
Now, I risk sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but it's no longer a theory. What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government. Our rights will not be inalienable, but they will be granted by government who can also take them away. You will not be able to move about freely. This is terrorism of the most worst kind, brought on you by our own government. The strongest, freest nation in the history of mankind will be averaged into world communism.
And there's no one else in this, but we have measured it. And that's what the New World Order is. So we're leading by example on social distancing with this.
More than 1 in 5 Americans is about to be living under a new world order as New York joins California and a growing list of US states preparing to effectively shut down.
And those people who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Oh my God! It was an act so brazen it reverberated, and life as we'd known it
Let's just get back.
was never the same. The shockwaves ringing to this day. 3,000 lives lost, air transport wasn't the same. Big Brother no longer bothering to hide in the shadows, a looming presence in our lives. How much more then can we expect COVID-19 to alter our way of life? How much of what we're experiencing now will entail the new normal, the taboo of physical contact, the distance between us? Nowhere left to flee, nowhere left to turn. Physically cut off from one another under enhanced surveillance, our own phones used to track our every move. Once COVID-19 has run its course, will life change for the better or worse?
Let's get to a third story here, which is you worked all weekend over in D.C. at the IIF highlight. And when we asked you what the highlight was, we wanted to talk about it. You said the New World Order. What does that mean?
Something I thought was interesting was a lot of the embassies were actually having parties on Thursday and Friday night. And a lot of the bankers were actually at the parties at the different embassies. Mm-hmm. And so you do see people trying to get a handle globally about how all of these tensions are going to impact deal flow, economic activity, and so they're placing their bets where they can see the most payoff from.
Did you go to an embassy party?
I was not allowed at the embassy parties.
Okay.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
It'll take time to restore chaos and order, but we're order out of chaos, but we will.
Well, the new world order is here. That's a reality. You see on the news, everyone's talking about right now. And trying to deny stupidity. You gotta face it. This is what we have been talking about. If you go back to some of my videos from 2-3 years ago, we talked about this, and it's here now and has changed. So I really feel pity of these guys right here who have defended the heliocentric model for many years. They're probably being paid for that and making money. All they worry about or think about is getting paid money for doing what they are doing. No benefit for you. I mean, some of us, like, we are not making, I don't make any money. On the other side, I spend my own money. Everything I do with my own money. I never took any money from you guys. I'm not even advertising my book anymore. I don't want to sell anything. I just want you to open your eyes, read the Bible, open the Bible, read the Bible, because everything that's in the Bible is taking place right now. So the New World Order is here. The first victim, I was watching the YouTube, they were talking about taking down videos that goes against the World Health Organization. But remember, guys, before they were censoring what you want to say about it, they were censoring Flat Earth, as we will see right now.
YouTube CEO will delete anything that contradicts World Health Organization on COVID-19. In fact, this is her saying it herself.
Anything that is medically unsubstantiated, so people saying like, take vitamin C, take turmeric, like those are all will cure you. Those are the examples of things that would be a violation of our policy. Anything that would go against World Health Organization recommendations would be a violation of our policy.
World Health Organization? Aren't YouTube, Google, American companies? Why are they answering to a foreign organization? Don't forget, Flat Earth was the first victim of censorship.
Ms. Downs, does Google think that this is a problem, and what is the solution that you're coming up with to address it?
So the first way is by demoting low-quality content and promoting more authoritative content, and the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the Earth is not flat.
correct.
I guess the reality is that now businesses and the police and governments, they all obey the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and this is the New World Order. They no longer represent you or defend you. Now they work for the New World Order. And as you see here in this video, it's really sad, like how the police in Turkey was grabbing citizens on the street and throwing the trucks, just like a dog catcher goes out and grabs a stray dog and throws into the dog van. So they're doing the same thing with people, and they did the same thing in Turkey. They are doing like this everywhere, taking babies from others. So it's terrible, the situation right now. And it's very little that we can do, actually almost nothing, because although we are big in numbers, our representatives don't work for us, they work for this New World Order. I want to conclude this video with this audio from Veritas Radio about Flat Earth. There are so many steps of deception. So I want you to pay close attention to this, very deep. You see how deep is this deception. Not only what's going on right now, the pandemic, which is a planned demic. It was planned. Like we saw, as this guy pointed out, the CARE bill that provided trillions of dollars to relief was introduced in 2019, even before this so-called pandemic was made public. But as in fact everything has been planned, even the bill was introduced in 2019, as you will see right now.
Okay, I want you to know right up front, YouTube, nothing in this video is my opinion and there is no conjecture. Everything that you see in this video is going to come from government and World Health Organization sources. Let me ask you this question before I start. When was the CARES, or Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act written? You would think that it was written after the so-called pandemic. Well, let me show you something real quick. This is from the Associated Press. This video right here is from March 27th, 2020, where it says Trump signs $2.2 trillion stimulus package. And we're going to see that this stimulus package is H.R. 748, the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Watch this.
Well, thank you all very much. It's a very important day. I'll sign the single biggest economic relief package in American history, and I must...
So it's the single biggest economic relief package in American history. And you would think that would be as a response to, it's written as a response to after the certain pandemic has taken place.
Say, or any other package, by the way. It's twice as large as any relief ever signed. It's $2.2 billion, but it actually goes up to $6.2 potentially trillion dollars.
Okay, so you see he made the mistake of billion to trillion there. Now this is whitehouse.gov. This is the actual transcription of everything that we're going to hear Trump say. I'm not going to play this entire thing, but I'm going to show you this mistake. But it actually goes up to 6.2 potentially trillion dollars. So that's everything that he says, and I want to show you this right here real quick. But I want to thank Republicans and Democrats. This is what Trump says in this video right here, dated March 27th, which corresponds with this at whitehouse.gov, remarks by President Trump at the signing of H.R. 748. Remember that. That's going to be very important here in a second. Signed when? March 27th. That corresponds with this date of this upload by the Associated Press, March 27th. And the reason I'm making a big deal out of this is because we're talking about H.R. 748. We are not talking about another bill. Trump did not sign another bill. He signed H.R. 748. That's going to be real important in about a minute. So he says this. I want to thank Republicans and Democrats for coming together, setting aside their differences, and putting America first. But when was this bill introduced? When was it written? It had to be after the pandemic came along, right? Because this is a natural response to what happens after the fact, right? Watch this. World Health Organization says a pneumonia of unknown cause detected in Wuhan, China was first reported when? To the World Health Organization country office in China on 31 December 2019. All right? When was it declared a public emergency? The outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern on 30 January 2020. So when was H.R. 748 introduced to Congress? You would think it would be after January 30th, 2020, right? I mean, it'd be ludicrous to come up with a Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act before coronavirus was ever on the scene, right? This is from congress.gov. You can look this up for yourself. Everything that I'm talking about in this video, I'm going to put all the links in the description and in the pinned comment so you can look this up for yourself and share it with your family and friends who've been deceived by what we're seeing today. Check this out. H.R. 748, going back to whitehouse.gov. H.R. 748, the CARES Act. What does CARES stand for? Look at this. Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act. H.R. 748, he signs H.R. 748. He signs it on March 27th, 2020. When was it introduced? Oh, check this out. Introduced 1/24/2019. A full year, a year and 2 months before he sits down at this desk and signs it during a plandemic. Why do we call it a plandemic? Because look, they already had this in the works, guys, on 1/24/2019. Let me show you something else. If you click a link right here on congress.gov, it takes you to this page right here so you can see the movement through Congress all the way to the very end where it becomes a law. When was it introduced? 1/24/2019, introduced into the House, and you can track its movement.
And I'm going to close it. I want you to please pay attention these next 10 minutes of video because this is an audio from Veritas Radio talking about the flat earth and all the deception that's going on right now. Unfortunately, the video was just made just before this so-called pandemic. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure he was going to include in this stairway of deception, stairway of the staircase of disbelief. Okay, I'm pretty sure he would include this one in it if he had made this video just before what's going on. So guys, God bless you. I hope to be back. I have another video. I have to be very sincere with you. I have been really discouraged because I got a strike from YouTube over a video I made 3 years ago about NASA, and they gave me a strike for that. So you can talk about that stuff. And they have deleted 3 of my videos that I uploaded talking about the pandemic. So, it takes sometimes a lot of time to make a video and edit, and there was one video I uploaded in less than 10 minutes, it was taken down. So, but I'm still working on another video. It could be my last, I don't know. But I hope to see you next time, hopefully next week. God bless you guys. And please watch this segment right now. Thank you.
The staircase of disbelief. So we're going to tie here nihilism to flat earth, right? If you consider the ability for people, this is what you're talking about, the ability for people to grapple with very controversial parapolitical ideas or with hugely alternative perspectives on, let's say, historical events, globalist politics, metaphysical ideas, just this sense that the great holographic illusions of reality must be encountered if you want to know what's going on. And there's different levels of that. And for me, a useful thing to do is place things within a sort of classification system of elevating incongruity, right? Elevating astonishment, higher and higher levels of mind-bending improbabilities, right? So in my work with individuals, which is like 90% of what I do, We call this funny idea the staircase of disbelief, right? And let me just explain what that is, because it's dead simple. Imagine a staircase that stretches up into the sky, into the clouds, right? And low down on that staircase are certain subject matters where you can take a step on it, a little step. Let's take an easy one. JFK was not assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, right? So let's say that's step one. So that's a conspiracy that is kind of obvious. And anyone who's just looked at that for 2 seconds thinks, well, he can't have done. It didn't happen like that. There's something else that went on, right? Okay, well done. You've just taken your first step on the staircase, right? So you've got your foot on the first stair. You're on it, right? Let's take another one. Easy one. WMDs. Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction capable of reaching England or America in 2003, which was used as the justification for an invasion of a sovereign nation.
Weapons of mass deception is what was used.
That's right, weapons of mass deception. Weapons of mass destruction were not real, and Tony Blair and George Bush lied. And people who exposed that deceitfulness were assassinated, like Robin Cook, the British MP. He exposed that lie and they killed him. Let's say that's step 2, right? You see where I'm going with this, yeah?
Sure.
And you're on the steps, and there's other ones. We could go through a bunch, but let's say you get the idea. Low down on the staircase, there's some slightly unbelievable ideas, but nevertheless they are true. And once you've taken a few steps up there, you then start to get the idea that the world is not the way you thought it was. And then you get, let's say, midway on the staircase, 9/11. 9/11 was not due to 19 Arab hijackers. First and foremost, because many of them have turned up alive. Fact. Go and check that out. So right from the start, it wasn't. And then we meet, and you and I have spoken to this woman, Judy Wood, and people like that who have got a clear thinking head on the shoulders, who are not swayed by nonsense, not pushed by trends and popular themes, not threatened, who tells us that there's a serious problem on that day. That's a big one. That's kind of midway up the staircase, that 9/11, and it's, as you know, Mel, it's a big one. That it's a world changer for people. So that's a classic, what I would call in the old days, Stargate event. Once you've moved through that Stargate of that, 1 or 2 years personal study, things are never the same again, right? So let's say that's midway on the staircase, and on the next stair, mass shootings are often faked. So easy to see and prove that, so easy. But you see now, if you haven't ascended the previous stairs, you can't believe that. You cannot believe the idea that the US and UK governments, operating under instructions from global empire, routinely murder children and women and men to advance gun restrictions, aggressive mental health care policy, and a sort of, increasing dependence on the state. That's unbelievable if you're not already gone up the staircase. Are you with me?
Oh, certainly.
Right? Whereas if you have walked up some of those stairs, prior stairs, you think, well, I can imagine that, to be honest. I'll need to take a look. I'm not just going to believe it willy-nilly just because Mel said it, but I'm going to listen to what the evidence is provided with all these different guests that talk about shootings and psyops and whatnot, and I'm going to check it out. And it really isn't very difficult to be a quality researcher. It's really not. You need to train yourself, you need to develop discernment. It takes a while, but it's not hard. It really isn't that hard. And when you look at it, you see the staggering problems, particularly all the doctored photographs in Sandy Hook. Big giveaway, big giveaway. Another one on the midway point. The media is not fair and never has been. Never has been. Once you start to grasp the magnitude of empire, that's not too difficult to get to that, right? And then you get to another one. This is a tough one for some people, because we're midway, we're getting higher on the staircase now. Is it possible that we conceive of a situation where all kinds of organisations, like the United Nations and the Bank of England and Black Lives Matter and Antifa, anti-fascism, Occupy, Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, Women's March, is it possible that those groups are actually bad? That they appear to be grassroots uprisings of people wanting equity and justice? Of course, No, wrong. That's not what they are. They've not arisen organically, and they do not represent reality. They are conditioning beacons, and they suck in the unwary and empty them out. They sort of amplify unreality only to create this extended movie, this long play movie that goes on and on and on and on. Fake polarizations, always fomenting division, always exploiting the weakest members of society, people with nothing, who don't have a chance to sit back and educate themselves, who don't have a chance in hell of that. They are the foot soldiers of those groups. Oh wow, really? So all that anti-fascism stuff and all those good people who think that that's all garbage. That's right, that's garbage, all of it, all garbage. That's a tough place to be. If you can stomach that, then you get further up, let's say the top parts of the staircase. World War II is almost the exact reverse situation as we've been taught in the timeline. Almost the exact reverse of everything. Who the Allied powers are, who the Axis powers are, it's almost back to front. World War II is one of the biggest psyops that you've ever seen in your life because of the extended period of time for it. You go up further. The Earth is not a sphere. The sun and the moon are not what you think they are. Same size, not far away. There is no gravity. Humans are ensouled children of divine source. And right at the top of the staircase, God is real and loves you. That's the hardest one for anyone to fucking believe. The hardest one. Even stupid religious people don't really accept that in the heart. They have a different version of it. That staircase of disbelief is what allows one person to examine a thing and another person not to examine a thing. You forget, Mel, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, you forget how far you've already come up that staircase over the last 15 years. You forget how many steps you've taken, and you forget what giant cataclysmic paradigm shifts you've had in your own private mind, in your own heart, in your own thoughts, personally in your life, with yourself, with your family, with your friends, with your business, with the audience, with this, with everything. We forget how far we've come. And just for a second, you stop and you look down and you realize you're at the top of the staircase. You're right there thinking, anything's possible. Stair 100. Anything is possible. There's many people walking around who may have taken one step or two steps or no steps. You cannot go midway or high up on the staircase and just say, hey, what about World War II? Apparently, Hitler was a real nice guy. You can't do that. You can't do that because it doesn't work. And what parapolitical researchers forget is the entire existence of these building blocks of ontological considerations, of considerations of what is real, epistemological considerations. How do we know what is real? How can we understand the scope of truthfulness? What does that even mean? Walking up that staircase in our own private studies answers that for us in very personal, meaningful ways. So like I say, I can walk into somebody's living room in this audience, pick a random guy, a random woman, and we can dive right into stair number 72, right into stair number 97. And they'll be like, wow, it's incredible. I don't know if it's true. It could be garbage, but I am prepared to look at it. And I don't have any investment. I don't have any problem looking at these issues. And I'm not in the least racist or anti-Semite, of course. That would be stupid, megally stupid, hugely stupid. It doesn't even go on the radar. However, in mainstream society, there is no staircase of disbelief. It doesn't exist. All of that stuff is untrue, every single last minute of it. And there is a lot of people walking around who don't even want to take the first step. They don't want to know. And here's why. If you take step number 1, Lee Harvey Oswald did not kill JFK, you have to go to step 100. You have to go all the way up to step 100 in due course. And deep inside, everyone knows that, and they don't want to take that journey because it's hard. It's hard, it's ugly, blood will be spilt, people will be lost, people will disappear, people will laugh at you, people will take business away from you, people will mock you, people may even lock you up. So most people, they hover the foot over that first stair, you know, when you're just about to stand on the stair, and they think, you know what, if I take this first step in due course, in the fullness of time, I might have to go all the way to the top. Flat Earth, God. I don't know whether I can do that. I don't even know whether I want to go there. And again, I emphasize this point, every single stair is a question mark. It's not whether this is the case or not. That's a very personal decision. We don't need to objectively agree on anything here. It's a personal journey, a personal staircase. All they are question marks. Flat Earth, there's a lot of big important questions there. Really, really important questions. Anyone who writes that off needs the brain examining. They need to go back and get the crayons out and start again.